We're starting today a new Maimer, as we've been going through the Mamarim of Tafshin Yud Aleph, 1951, the first year of the Rebbe's Nesias, the first year the Rebbe was verbringing and saying Mamarim. And this Maimer is the Maimer of Shabbos Mevorchim Sivan, in which that year was Parshas Bechukoisai. This year we're reading this Shabbos already Parshas Bahar and Bechukoisai, and the Maimer talks about the concepts that are discussed in Parshas Bechukoisai. Parshas Bechukoisai is a parsha that talks about the brachas, the blessings that the Jewish people receive by doing what Hashem wants, to the extent that even the opposite, even this that's discussed later in Parshas Bechukoisai, the things that, not good things that happen when the Yidden are not behaving the way they should, the Alter Rebbe writes in Likutei Torah that in depth, even those are also really brachas, but they're brachas that come down because they're from such a high place. They don't come as revealed brachas, they come revealed in the opposite way. It's an interesting thing. In the Gemara it says that when Ezra, in the beginning of the time of the second Beis Hamikdash, Ezra HaSofer established the order of reading in the Torah the way we do it today, which means that every Shabbos we should read another parsha in a way that in this way we complete the entire Torah after Sukkot and Simchas Torah. So he set it up in a way that we should read the brachas and the opposite of brachas, the blessings and those things that are not revealed blessings. There's twice in the Torah, once in Parshas Bechukoisai and once in Parshas Kisavai. Parshas Bechukoisai is the first time in Kisavai is in Sefer Devarim, which is Mishnah Torah, where Moshe Rabbeinu repeats the entire Torah, so he repeats the idea of the blessings and the opposite of blessings. And Ezra established that the brachas and the opposite of Parshas Bechukoisai should be read before Shavuos, and those that are in Parshas Kisavai should be read before Rosh Hashanah. Why do we read them before Rosh Hashanah? It's the end of the year, and it's as if we're saying, Tachel, Techal Shana V'Chila Leisel, let the year with all of its curses be completed, and rather Tachel Shana V'Chila, let's now begin a new year with its blessings. And that's why in the end of the previous year, we end off by reading the blessings and the opposite. However, we don't want to read it directly before Rosh Hashanah, things which are the opposite of blessing, and that's why it's not the last Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah, but rather there's one more Shabbos that interrupts in between. And what is that Shabbos? Atem nitzavim hayoim kulchem. You are now standing today, all of you together, united as one. Something that brings the blessings of Hashem for the new year, that we know that it's for sure blessings and a good year and a sweet year. Tosfos there in the Gemara explains something very interesting. Atzeres nami reishatahu. Shavuos is also considered like Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the year. Because on Shavuos we receive the Torah, and everything is about the Torah. The Torah draws down the life for everything in the world. Therefore, on Shavuos, when we receive the Torah, it's in a sense the beginning of a year, it's a new year. And that's why also before Shavuos, we want to finish off all the opposite of blessing, and rather come as we start the new year of Shavuos with blessings. The parsha that we read in between is also Parshas Bamidbar, which Bamidbar talks about counting the Jewish people. Hence, it's talking about the unity of the Jewish people that once again brings blessings. So this way, we know that for the new year, there's only blessings. in Parshas B'chukoisai itself, we start off, and the Rebbe points out by the Farbrengen, that when we start off, we're starting with the blessings, and therefore that's the beginning of the Parsha, that's the essence of the Parsha, to the extent that it transforms anything which doesn't seem to be blessing. And what do we start off with? In B'chukoisai Telechu, if a Jew will go in my statutes, if you'll follow, and not just follow, but walk in the ways of Hashem, by learning Torah, specifically the toil in the study of Torah, and as well as b'mitzvosei tishmoiru, to keep Hashem's mitzvahs, then Hashem promises, v'nasati gishmeichem b'itam, I will give your rains in the proper times. And the Baal Shem Tov explains that the word gishmeichem also comes from the word gashmias. Hashem is promising, I'll give you everything, not just in a spiritual form, but in the physical form, in an open and revealed good in the physical world. So this is something which this week's Parsha we're reading, both getting rid of anything that may be openly the opposite of blessing, and more importantly, promising that a Jew only has to go in the ways of Hashem, study the Torah, and complete and do the mitzvahs, keep the mitzvahs, and Hashem promises that He'll give us everything in an open and revealed good until to the extent of in the physical world, mamash. Now in this mimer we're going to speak a little bit about, we're going to start off first with the general idea of these brachas that Hashem promises, and then specifically one of the most important brachas is that Hashem promises towards the end of the brachas, v'salachti v'soichechem v'yisi lachem le'lekim, I will walk amongst you and I will be a God for you. The interesting point that is being spoken about over here is the word v'salachti, I will go. Both when it talks about the Jewish people fulfilling the Torah and mitzvahs, it uses the word telechu, which means there is the going that we go, there is our going, our walking, so to speak, traveling, moving forward, and there's v'salachti, Hashem's walking. Now in Hashem's walking itself, it's also v'hishalachti. Not v'halachti, I will go, but v'hisalachti, which means I'll go two ways. I'll go from up, I'll travel, so to speak, downwards towards you, and v'hisalachti, I'm going to go back, which means two types of walking. And this is something which we're going to see, Be'ezras Hashem, in the course of the Maimer, that the Rebbe explains this idea of the walking, and of the going, and the different going up and down and up, from up downwards and down upwards, which it's Hashem we will see in the continuation as we continue to learn the Maimer. First, the beginning of the Maimer will preface with another idea. When does this happen? A lot of these brachas that it says, that speaks about in Parshas B'chukoisai, were mostly fulfilled in the time of Mashiach, or will mostly be fulfilled in the time of Mashiach. However, we find that a lot of the blessings that are being spoken about are not dependent only on the time of Mashiach, but it's dependent in general of a Jew. When the Jewish people did what they were supposed to do, then Hashem fulfilled and gave these blessings already before the time of Mashiach, whether it was in the time of the Beis HaMikdash, or even in other times when we find that Hashem gave an abundance because the Jewish people were fulfilling the Torah and mitzvahs. And such as an example of what the Gemara says in Tainis, that in the time of Shimon ben Shetach, one of the sages of the Mishnah, at that time the Jewish people were fulfilling the Torah and mitzvahs in its proper form, and they merited that the chitim, the wheat kernels, were extremely big, to the extent that the Gemara uses the words, they were chitim ki kloyos. The kernels of wheat were as big as kidneys. That means something which is usually reserved for the time of Mashiach, when there'll be an abundance of Gashmias, an abundance of physical and material blessings, and yet when a Jew follows the ways of Hashem, even in our time, even before the coming of Mashiach, this can already happen. We find also another similar interesting point, also in the Gemara in Tainis, where it talks about King Yoshio, who was one of the kings from Malchi Beis David, from the family of David, towards the end of the first Beis HaMikdash. And at that time, Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babel, wanted to travel to go through the land of Eretz Yisrael, just in order to, he was at war with Paroi, with the king of Egypt, and he asked permission to go with his armies to use Eretz Yisrael as a shortcut to go through. Yoshio refused to allow him to go through because he said in this week's Parsha, Parshas Bechukoyse, it says, "V'cherev lo yisaver ba'artzachem," a sword shall not pass through your land. And the sages tell us that a war, we already say there won't be any wars. But cherev means even a war, even a sword of peace, which means just another army bearing arms will not go through Eretz Yisrael. And so he didn't want to give permission. However, Yoshio was punished because he didn't ask the advice of Yirmiyahu, of the prophet. And the truth is that the Jewish people were not on the level then of meriting that we should have the blessings to that extent. But what we do see over there is that it's not that it's not true. It's not just that only in the time of Mashiach such a thing will happen. It just happens to be that particular generation, the Jews were not fulfilling the mitzvahs to that extent in the proper way, and therefore it wasn't the time for that. That's why Yoshio, the king, was punished. But the concept of being able to understand that these blessings can happen at all times, in that he was right. So we do see that a lot of these blessings can happen at any time. Just by the very fact that the Jewish people are keeping the ways of Hashem, are going in the ways of Hashem, that we already receive all the blessings, not just in spiritual, but in abundant physical and material blessings. Now what the Rebbe points out is an interesting thing, that this v'salachti b'soichechem, that Hashem says, I will walk amongst you, this is something that the Ramban and the Rabbeinu Bachi, the Rishonim, they say that this never happened, not even in the time of the first or second Beis HaMikdash, and will only happen at the time of Mashiach. So unlike the other blessings that are dependent only on keeping Torah and mitzvahs properly, this specific promise of Hashem saying, I will go amongst you, is something which is different than the rest of them. It's something that's something beyond all the other blessings that can only happen in the time of Mashiach. And the Rebbe is going to explain in the Maimer what is special about V'salachti v'soichechem. What is special about this promise of Hashem going amongst us, of Hashem walking, so to speak, amongst the Jewish people, that it's something that can only take place in the time of Mashiach. And in order to explain this, the Rebbe is also going to explain what is the idea, as we mentioned earlier, what does it mean to walk? Why do we say in Bechukoyse Telechu, if you'll walk in my ways? Why do we say V'salachti v'soichechem, so to speak, that Hashem is also walking? What is these ideas of walking? And especially we know that walking in Hashem's ways is something that's a constant mitzvah. It says already, V'salachto b'drachav, go in the ways of Hashem, which means that we should follow the path of Hashem, just as Hashem is merciful, we too should be merciful. What then is special over here in Bechukoyse Telechu? Something added, something additional. What's the idea of walking? And what's the idea of Hashem's walking? Now when it says also, V'oilech eschem koimimius, it says, Hashem says, I will walk you, I will bring you, cause you to walk upright. So there's two opinions in the Gemara. What does upright mean? Does upright mean in the level of walking of 100 amas high, like the Heichal, like the height of the Heichal, or 200 amas high, 200 cubits high, like Adam Arishan, it says that he was 2 floors, he was double the size of the Heichal. Now what does that mean physically? What does that mean in the practical sense? Are walking upright, and the 2 aspects of walking upright. So Mr. Hashem, what we're going to learn in the Maimar is, what is Hashem asking of us? What is the idea of our walking? What is Hashem's walking? Why is that something which will only fully be fulfilled in the time of Mashiach? And specifically the 2 ideas of walking, which means Hashem walks, so to speak, from above and comes down to us, and we walk from below and connect to Hashem. So we're going to explain in our Jews serving Hashem in what sense the 2 types of walking are, which Be'ezras Hashem we will continue in the coming classes.